In this video, we're going to learn how to properly use a micropipette. There's generally 3 volumes of micropipettors: 100 to 1,000 microliters, 10 to 100 microliters, and 2 to 20 microliters. There's a few basic parts of anatomy to a micropipetter. The first is the plunger, which goes down to a first stop and a second stop. The second stop is to expel the fluid. The first stop is to draw up the fluid. We'll get to that later. The second part of the anatomy is the ejector, which is used to safely expel the pipette tip into the container. The third part of the anatomy is the adjuster knob and the display window. You want to note that there's a red color here on the bottom. This signifies a change in units. For example, this micropipetter is a 2 to 20 microliter. So in this 2 to 20 microliter pipette, the volume here is 10.74 microliters. Notice the range of the pipette. You do not want to adjust outside of its range. You risk damaging it and causing a need to repair. Pipettors are also less precise at the extremes of their ranges, especially at the smaller range. So if you're pipetting something that's 10 microliters, a 10 to 2 microliter pipette would be best. It's important that when you're using the pipetter that you wear gloves. This is to protect you and the micropipetter and your samples from contamination. Always keep the pipette vertical when a tip is attached. This prevents contamination and volume error inside the micropipetter. 2 common errors of not keeping it vertical is when you're opening up a bottle. Fluid would then draw into the micropipetter. Another common error is when you leave it on the cabinet with a pipette tip. If there's fluids in the pipette tip, it'll fall into the micropipetter. It is, however, okay to leave your micropipetter horizontal when there's not a tip attached. When drawing up from a mixture, make sure it is homogeneous. Place the pipette tip at least 1 centimeter into the solution. When you're drawing it up, make sure your plunger is at the first stop and not the second, as the second will cause you to draw in more volume than you intended. Draw at a steady pace, not too slow and not too fast. When adding liquid, always press the tip to the wall of the container and press the plunger at a moderate pace to the first stop, then press down to the second stop. Always change tips between different solutions to avoid cross-contamination. It is a good idea to create a pipette disposal container. Routine maintenance of your micropipettors is an important step. You want to wipe clean your micropipettors with 70% ethanol whenever it is needed. You do never want to soak your micropipettors in bleach. Routine maintenance also includes greasing the seals, pistons, and springs inside the micropipetter. You'll also want to calibrate your micropipetter. So you want to draw up 1 ml of distilled H2O and weigh it on a scale. 1 ml of distilled H2O weighs 1 gram per ml. Then change your volumes on your pipettes to both extremes and make sure that the volumes you get match the weight that you should obtain. If you need to adjust your micropipetter, calibrate it as the manufacturers instruct. There's 3 different types of micropipettes, or 3 different volumes generally. The first is the 100 to 1,000 microliter. The second is 10 to 100. And the third... Yeah, wait. Oh, there it is.